Good morning. This is the presentation that I would be giving to the clients before the tour of Mahatma Gandhi's residence in Johannesburg. It is background information on Mahatma Gandhi and does not form part of the tour itself. However, it should be presented to the clients because it is an integral part of the entire history and important to understand who Mahatma Gandhi was. Okay, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was born on the 2nd of October 1869 and died on the 30th of January 1948. He was an Indian lawyer, anti-colonialist nationalist and political ethnicist who employed non-violence resistance to lead the successful campaign for India's independence from British rule, and in turn inspired movements for civil rights and freedoms across the world. The honorific Mahatma, which in Sanskrit means great soul or venerable, was first applied to him in 1914 in South Africa and is now used throughout the world. He was born and raised in a Hindu family in coastal Gujarat in western India, and Gandhi trained in law at the Inner Temple in London and was called to the bar at the age of 22 in June 1891. After 2 uncertain years in India where he was unable to start a successful law practice, he moved to South Africa in 1893 to represent an Indian merchant in a lawsuit. He went on to stay for 21 years. It was in South Africa that Gandhi raised his family, and here where he first employed his non-violent resistance theories in a campaign for civil rights. In 1915, aged 45, he returned to India. Immediately upon arriving in South Africa, Gandhi faced discrimination because of his skin color and heritage, like all people of color. He was not allowed to sit with European passengers in the stagecoach and told to sit on the floor near the driver, then beaten when he refused. Elsewhere, he was kicked into a gutter for daring to walk near a house. In another instance, he was thrown off a train at Pietermaritzburg after refusing to leave the first-class passengers' side. He sat in the train station shivering all night and pondering if he should return to India or protest for his rights. He chose to protest and was allowed to board the train the next day. In another incident, the magistrate of a Durban court ordered Gandhi to remove his turban, which he refused to do. Indians were not allowed to walk on in public footpaths in South Africa. When Gandhi arrived in South Africa, he thought of himself as a Briton first and an Indian second. However, the prejudice against him and his fellow Indians from British people that Gandhi experienced and observed deeply bothered him. He found it humiliating, struggling to understand how some people can feel honor or superiority or even pleasure in such inhumane practices. Gandhi began to question his people's standing in the British Empire. The Abdullah case that had brought him to South Africa concluded in May 1894, and the Indian community organized a farewell party for Gandhi as he prepared to leave for India. However, a unital government discriminatory proposal led Gandhi to extend his original period of stay in South Africa. He planned to assist Indians in opposing the bill to deny them the right to vote, a right then proposed to be an exclusive European right. He asked Joseph Chamberlain, the British colonial secretary at the time, to reconsider his position on this bill. Though unable to halt the bill's passage, his campaign was successful in drawing attention to the grievances of Indians in South Africa. He helped found the Natal Indian Congress in 1894, and through this organization, he molded the Indian community of South Africa into a unified political force. However, it took 100 years before the right to vote became available to all South Africans. In January 1897, when Gandhi landed in Durban, a mob of white settlers attacked him, and he escaped only through the efforts of the wife of the police superintendent. However, he refused to press charges against any members of the mob. In 1900, during the Boer War, Gandhi volunteered to form a group of stretcher bearers as the Natal Indian Ambulance Corps. Gandhi raised 1,100 Indian volunteers to support British combat troops against the Boers. They were trained and medically certified to serve on the front lines. They were auxiliaries at the Battle of Colenso to a white volunteer ambulance corps. At the Battle of Spionkop, Gandhi and his bearers moved to the front line and had to carry wounded soldiers for miles to a field hospital because the terrain was too rough for the ambulances. Gandhi and 37 other Indians received the Queen's Medal, South Africa. In 1906, the Transvaal government promulgated a new act compelling registration of the colony's Indian and Chinese population. At a mass protest meeting held in Johannesburg on the 11th September that year, Gandhi adopted the still evolving methodology of SATYAGRAHA, or devotion to the truth, or non-violent protest for the very first time. Gandhi urged Indians to defy the new law and to suffer the punishments for doing so. Gandhi's ideas of protest, persuasion skills and public relations had emerged. He took these back to India in 1915. In 1906, when the British declared war against the Zulu kingdom in Natal, Gandhi, at age 36, sympathized with the Zulus and encouraged the Indian volunteers to help as an ambulance unit. He argued that Indians should participate in the war efforts to change attitudes and perceptions of the British people against the colored people. Gandhi, with a group of 20 Indians and black people of South Africa, volunteered as a stretcher-bearer corps to treat British soldiers as well as the opposite side of the war, Zulu soldiers. White soldiers stopped Gandhi and his team from treating the injured Zulu, and some African stretcher-bearers with Gandhi were shot dead by the British. The medical team commanded by Gandhi operated for less than 2 months. Gandhi, volunteering to help as a staunch loyalist during the Zulu and other wars, made no difference in the British attitude, and the African experience was a part of his great disillusionment with the West, transforming him into an uncompromising non-cooperator. In 1910, Gandhi established, with the help of his friend Herman Kallenbach, an idealistic community they named Tolstoy Farm near Johannesburg. There he nurtured his policy of peaceful resistance. But first, in 1907, both men lived at Satyagraha House. And now the tour will begin. Thank you.